So just for those of you not familiar with the university, again, I will post these so that you have them for later too. And as I said, we've been working in a number of different areas of mobile, both in the corporate sector, helping Microsoft design their mobile learning strategy, also working with elements of military education, other corporations like Johnson & Johnson, and doing some humanitarian and education work in things like STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, and a program called My Sports Pulse that we'll show a little bit later. But really all of these link mobile with games and simulations, virtual worlds, and other collaborative technologies in new and unique ways. And we're trying to use this to create value in new ways using mobile, social, and real-time for a lot of the different innovation that we're pursuing right now. I'd love to get your thoughts on that concept too. This really comes out of some of the U.S. venture capital community. And they're not just talking about mobile technology, they're talking about mobile as a way of life, the societal impact and changes. Not just social networking, but some of the ways that social technology and social collaboration have changed the way we work, the way we do things, and the way we learn, and also real time. And I was looking at mobile for ICT development in the developing nations. And I thought I might start off by sharing an example from some of our own efforts in Haiti. We're actually closer here in Florida to Haiti than we are to Washington, D.C. And over the past 12 years, we've been helping build several universities there, which were unfortunately wiped out. So in addition to short-term relief, we've also been looking at long-term, how do we redevelop and rebuild some of the areas? So we wanted to have a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy that involved some of our innovations. One of those mobile innovations was to try and help the first emergency responders from the military that were going over to treat wounds and help people recover right after the immediate 230,000 casualties. So having things that worked without any power, a simple and ultimately portable and mobile solution was to do a deck of cards with all of the emergency procedures for hemorrhage control, for trying to have medical procedures like airway obstructions, and meeting those needs, but also doing a mobile edition of the same thing. So developing once and delivering in many different formats. And you see those examples up on the screen. The card games are physical card games as well as on the phone, and we're also doing online versions and virtual world versions right now at the same time, so that depending on what modality people are learning in or have access to, they can use any one of those. We're also trying to activate the learning science here too. I'm not sure, maybe you can chime in the discussion group. And if you could let me know if you've heard of the spacing effect. You can put a green check in your box if you've heard of the spacing effect or intervention spacing. Good, a few of you have. For those of you that haven't, the intervention spacing is something that we can make use of and really activates mobile in a new and unique way, because this is a very old learning theory from Ebbinghaus from 100+ years ago, showing that transitioning something from working memory to long-term memory so that you really learn it deeply requires multiple interventions spaced out correctly for your learning. So if you have an ability to self-rate yourself on how well you knew a certain procedure, and you're able to track that historically over time as you're seeing the goals on the bottom lower quadrant of these screens, then it will automatically populate with an algorithm to see how well you're learning and put in review questions when you need them most to transition from working memory to long-term memory. Thanks for that, Quick Learner. I appreciate you throwing that in there from Wikipedia. And we've used that science to activate better learning inside of the mobile edition. And we're testing that right now to prove out that we are actually producing better learning results. But this is an example of something that we wanted to put out in both physical paper form, card-based form, as well as in mobile format, and then in online format too. And I think you'll see that as a theme that emerges in a number of the different examples that I show you today. We also wanted to help in other ways too by using the mobile technology to allow us to track the Ushahidi feeds, which is a service that allows you to have crowdsourcing, text messages that come in to show you where there are critical needs, and map those out so that you could see them, in this case on an Android phone, and be able to read each of those needs, and then assign certain agencies or organizations like the Red Cross or the UN to work on certain problems as they arose. The National Science Foundation from the U.S. decided to fund this and to allow us to go to Haiti and actually test this out too. I'm not going to try my luck with a video that we have, but there is a video on Vimeo that I'll also post a link to, and you can go and watch it later, that describes some of the work that we did for interagency coordination and the ability to see how we could reestablish and maybe even rebuild in a new and innovative for healthcare. Here's a few snapshots of things you might find interesting. The typical recitation method of learning is alive and well. The instructor sits at the front of the classroom with a book and reads off, and the students recite it. So what does that sound like? It sounds like podcasts. And having access to mobile technology and books, being able to have digital versions of that. There's an example here of a Digicel phone that was given out that has a solar panel on the back that was given out to 4,000 healthcare workers to allow them to have the tools they need in their hands. Here's a couple of other shots that set the context of the fact that this is all that's left of one of the universities we helped found, the University of Fondois. And you see a border here that is still holding up a gate, and everything else is in rubble. They've been able to reestablish and put a roof on another building down the street and hold classes, open air, and have access to basic computing service. But everyone does have a mobile phone, and they're starting to have better mobile phones too. We put things like simple flip cameras in their hands to be able to allow them to record lectures on agronomy, and we sent over technology fundamentals and information fluency information that they could have access to on both an Android phone and a Pico projector. Hopefully you've seen some of these projectors that are the size of a phone and that project up to a screen and allow you to share with the whole classroom. We didn't want to just give these out, though. We wanted to come up with a sustainable way of doing this. Financing these through microloans is an example of a business innovation and an operating innovation that makes this sustainable over the course of time. So it'd be almost like giving an educational loan to a professor or a faculty member, a teacher, so that they could afford the equipment that they wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. And this funds the kit of technology that we provided. Now, we didn't decide on what that kit should be. We asked them what that should be. So, of course, the U.S. Unfortunately has a long history of technology imperialism, and we're trying to kind of get away from that trend and look at ways that we can make the technology integrate successfully with things that they're already doing successfully in the countries that we're going to, like Haiti. And I think that's an important distinction of how we do that and how we look at using things like not just the mobile technology itself, but also microfinance in conjunction with some newer learning theories, or maybe reactivating older learning theories like the spacing effect to make this accessible. We're also looking at how we can expand this model, the scalability of something that's sustained of its own rights through this microloan program, where the small percentage of interest that's earned goes to fund additional phones and projectors for other faculty members, is something that we've been rolling out. And we're also trying to innovate by building up the next generation of leaders in our organizations too. We have one particular PhD student named David Rogers who has been working in Sudan setting up schools in the Air Force and is looking at ways that you can make these programs sustainable across the globe, not just in Haiti, but leveraging what we've been doing in Haiti to also do the same thing in Kenya, using this Ology platform, which is basically a mobile LMS that was created by David Rogers and his team of software developers here at the university. You have access to open education like MIT lectures and classroom materials through their Open Courseware initiative, the libraries of the world, and open source books, and also community center programs that allow you to use simple text messages and other chat features to have online mentoring, to even when you have very, very low bandwidth to no bandwidth. which has been the case in Kenya, where they had a program that has 40 seats available per term for a 2,000-person audience in capacity. So those are some of the things that we've been working on to try and leverage the mobile technology and expand it out to other places besides just here in the U.S. Another example of this has been in the Pacific region, where 21 countries came together this past fall to see if they could help with humanitarian aid and disaster relief, working with the military and with nonprofit groups to be able to simulate a massive earthquake off the coast of Japan. Remember, this was last fall. And see how they would react interculturally, with language issues and barriers, with needing to operate in real time between countries as diverse as Singapore and Japan to Hawaii in the U.S. and also to Indonesia and Australia and a number of countries needing to work together. We designed this similar handheld application to what you saw before that could keep track of what hospitals would be open, what roads would be closed, where there would be food distribution centers, how they would handle emergency services for people across all of these regions, and be able to fuse all that data not just on the mobile phone, but also in a portal so that you have all that information together. We're still looking to see how the actual exercises that we did and the real response to the earthquakes 5 weeks ago have better enabled through simulation and through the use of mobile technology their efforts there than some of the other earthquakes and natural disasters that have happened across the globe. So hopefully Illuminate is starting to keep up. I see a couple people saying that they're having some issues. If you would raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon if you're having that problem too, that'll help me keep an eye on who is having those issues and how pervasive they are. It could just be a local connection for some of the individuals.